Hey everybody, and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Liam, and today we're going to be looking at a really fun way to learn English,
I'm Zoe,
especially if you're just starting out.
and I can't wait to get started.
We're talking about learning English like you would play a video game.
Sounds a little crazy,
It does, right?
but there's actually a lot of research behind it.
Yeah, it's all about just like getting started quickly and having fun while you're learning.
Exactly.
So one of the biggest things that holds people back from speaking English, I think, is fear, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're so scared to make mistakes.
Yeah, in her TEDx talk, Mariana Pascal talks all about this fear
Okay.
and how it can really stop people from even trying to speak.
Like they're frozen.
Exactly, and she compares it to her daughter's piano lessons.
Oh, piano lessons, how so?
So she noticed that her daughter was so focused on playing perfectly and not making any mistakes
Yeah.
that she wasn't really enjoying the music.
Oh, yeah.
She was approaching it like a test,
Right.
not a way to express herself.
Oh, I could see that happening, for sure. It's like being afraid to speak up in class because you might get the grammar wrong.
Exactly.
So did Pascal have any ideas about how to get past that fear?
Yeah, she did. So one day she was at a cyber cafe
Okay.
and she was watching this gamer who was totally absorbed in his game. He wasn't actually very good at the game,
Oh,
but he was having so much fun.
He was trying.
Yes, he was completely focused on winning.
Yeah, just like bring on the challenge.
Exactly. And Pascal realized that this is how we should approach learning English too.
Okay.
Not like a performance where we're afraid to make mistakes,
Right.
but like a game where we're excited to learn and improve.
So it's more about having fun and going for it than being perfect.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. It's all about the goal, not about being perfect.
Pascal actually has names for these two different approaches, right?
She does.
What are they again?
She calls them the piano player and the gamer.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that the piano player versus the gamer when it comes to learning English.
So how does this gamer mindset actually work in real life?
So Pascal gives a couple of examples.
Okay.
And one that she talks about is this time that she went to the pharmacy to buy omega-3 supplements.
Okay.
And she wasn't sure which type to get, so she asked a sales rep for help.
Okay. And this sales rep spoke perfect English.
Oh, yeah, perfect English.
Yeah.
Well, the sales rep gave her this really long and complicated
I
explanation
know.
about all the different types of omega-3s,
Oh.
using all these technical terms.
And she walked out more confused than when she walked in.
Totally.
Too much information.
Right. So then she went to talk to the counter girl,
Yeah.
who actually didn't speak English quite as fluently as the sales rep.
Okay, what happened then?
Well, the counter girl just asked her straight up, EPA for heart, DHA for brain.
Oh,
Your heart okay or not?
wow.
Your brain okay or not?
Straight to the point.
Exactly.
So even though her English wasn't perfect, she was able to help Pascal get what she needed.
Right?
Because she was focused on that goal.
Exactly. She wanted to understand what Pascal's needs were and help her get the right supplement.
I love that example.
That's a good one.
This reminds me of something Pascal said about how English is used today.
Oh, what's that?
She said that most English conversations these days are actually between non-native speakers.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So it's not about being a native speaker anymore.
Right.
It's about using English as a tool to communicate with people from all over the world.
96% of English conversations involve non-native speakers.
Wow, that's wild.
It's pretty amazing.
So English is really a global language now.
It really is.
And I think that means that it's more important than ever to just focus on communicating clearly and effectively,
Yes.
not on sounding perfect.
Right. Like a native speaker.
So we talked about the fear factor and how a gamer mindset can help.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the other benefits of this approach?
Well, the research points to three main benefits.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first one is reduced anxiety.
Okay, how did that work?
So when you shift your focus from worrying about mistakes to actually achieving your communication goal,
Okay.
you naturally feel less anxious. It's like when you're playing a video game, you're so focused on winning
Right.
that you don't have time to worry about messing up.
You're just going for it.
Exactly. You just keep trying until you succeed.
I like that.
What about the second benefit?
Yeah, what's the second one?
Increased focus.
Okay.
When you're thinking about what you want to say and how to say it clearly,
Uh-huh.
you're more present in the conversation.
Makes sense.
You're really listening to the other person and thinking about how to respond in a good way.
So it's like training yourself to be a better listener,
Right.
which is a really valuable skill in any language.
It is.
Okay, cool. What's that last benefit?
Boosted confidence.
Okay.
So when you start seeing yourself as a successful communicator,
Uh-huh.
even with your current level of English,
Yeah.
your confidence grows.
It makes sense.
And that motivates you to practice even more.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
Exactly.
The more confident you feel, the better you communicate, and then the more confident you become.
Yeah, and it's about celebrating your wins.
Totally.
It's just like a gamer celebrates reaching a new level.
Oh, I love that.
Me too.
You know, this is really making me rethink how I approach speaking English.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get so caught up in trying to sound perfect
Yeah.
that I forget what I'm actually trying to say.
I think we've all been there.
It's like I'm playing that game where the goal is to avoid making mistakes,
Right.
which isn't very fun or productive.
Not at all.
So what's Pascal's advice for actually putting this gamer mindset into practice?
She emphasizes the importance of shifting your focus from yourself to the listener
Okay.
and to the desired outcome of the conversation.
Oh, okay.
So just like a gamer focuses on winning the game,
Mm-hmm.
you need to focus on the purpose of your conversation.
So it's about having a clear communication goal in mind.
Exactly.
I liked it.
Instead of worrying about your grammar or your accent,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what do I want to communicate?
Okay.
What information do I want to share?
Got it.
What action do I want to take?
That's a really helpful way to think about it.
It is.
I think sometimes I get so caught up in trying to sound perfect that I lose sight of the actual point of the conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm not really communicating effectively.
You're right. You're so focused on yourself.
It's like I'm playing that game where the only goal is to avoid making mistakes.
Yeah. And that's not very fun.
Not at all.
And it's not very productive.
So instead of trying to avoid making any mistakes, we should be like embracing the challenge and having fun with the process.
Exactly.
Remember, speaking English isn't about achieving some like perfect state.
It's a journey.
It's about using it as a tool to connect and communicate and achieve your goals.
Right.
So it's more like a game.
Exactly.
To be engaging and challenging and ultimately rewarding.
And-
This is really inspiring. There's like a whole new way of thinking about language learning.
I'm glad.
It's making me realize that it's not about being perfect. It's about being effective.
Exactly. Using English as a tool to connect with the world and achieve your goals.
Yeah, just like Pascal says.
Yes.
So we've talked about how fear can hold people back from speaking English and how a gamer mindset can help overcome that fear.
Mm,
We've also explored some of the benefits of this approach, like reduced anxiety, increased focus, and boosted confidence.
right?
But how does this actually play out in the real world?
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like to approach English learning with a gamer mindset?
That's a great question.
And I think that's what we're going to dive into next.
Let's do it.
Sounds good.
Let's go.
You know, one thing Pascal points out is that, like, traditional English classes, they often focus more on grammar rules and accuracy
Yeah.
than on actual communication.
Yeah. I remember spending so much time stressing out about like getting every verb tense, right?
Oh, yeah.
Memorizing tons of vocabulary. Right.
But it didn't always feel very helpful when I was actually trying to have a real conversation.
Exactly. Pascal argues that in many classrooms, students are judged more on being correct than on being clear.
Interesting.
They're taught to avoid making mistakes,
Right.
which can make them afraid to speak up.
So they might be like grammar experts.
Right.
But they can't actually use English in real-life situations.
That's exactly the problem.
Oh, wow.
And she actually gives this example from a school exam where a student clearly understood a paragraph
Okay.
but got marked down for like a small grammar error.
Oh, gee.
He left out a letter in the word environment.
Oh, the meaning was still clear.
Exactly.
That seems a little harsh.
Yeah, it does.
So she's saying that it's more important to just get your message across
In the real world.
than it is to speak with perfect grammar.
Exactly.
So it's about using English as a tool to get things done,
Yes.
like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, a lot of people carry that fear of making mistakes with them from their school days
Right.
into their adult lives.
Yeah, they just can't let go of it.
So how does this all relate back to the gamer mindset?
Well, think about when you're playing a game,
Uh-huh.
you're not going to win just by avoiding mistakes.
Right. You have to actually play the game.
Right, you have to take some risks, you have to experiment.
You're going to mess up.
Exactly.
It's part of the process.
You're going to make mistakes along the way, but that's all part of the learning process.
Yeah, it's about learning from those mistakes
Yeah.
and getting better as you go.
And that's where the gamer mindset can be so helpful.
Uh-huh.
It encourages you to like embrace the challenge
Right.
and not be afraid to fail.
But isn't there a risk that if you're not focusing on grammar,
Uh-huh.
that you become like too casual
It's a good question.
with your English?
It's a good question, and it's definitely important to find a balance.
Right.
Pascal isn't saying that grammar isn't important at all. But it's about understanding that the goal of language is communication.
Yeah.
And sometimes getting your message across clearly
Wow.
is more important than using perfect grammar.
So it's about being aware of the context
Yeah,
and adjusting your approach.
exactly. And it's about recognizing that fluency is a journey, not a destination.
It's not like you wake up one day and you're just fluent.
Exactly. You don't have to be perfect to start communicating effectively.
Okay.
It's just like in a video game. You start at level 1.
And you work your way up.
Exactly. And you gradually level up your skills as you play.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how can someone overcome that fear of making mistakes and start speaking English more confidently?
Pascal suggests focusing on 3 key things.
Okay.
Shifting your focus, recognizing that English is a global language,
Okay.
and practicing regularly.
Those are really good.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit.
sure.
What does she mean by shifting your focus?
So remember how we talked about the gamer being so focused on the goal of the game?
Yeah.
It's the same with speaking English.
Mhm.
Instead of focusing on yourself and your fear of making mistakes,
Right.
focus on the other person
Okay.
and what you want to communicate.
So you're kind of taking the focus off of yourself
Exactly.
and putting it on like the goal of the conversation.
Exactly.
So it's about having a clear communication goal in mind.
Yes.
I like that.
So ask yourself, what do I want to achieve in this conversation?
Okay.
What information do I want to share?
Uh-huh.
What questions do I need to ask?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then by doing that, you kind of naturally take your attention away from your anxieties.
Exactly.
And you can just be more present.
And you can listen more attentively to the other person.
That's a good one. Okay. And you also mentioned something about English being a global language.
Yes.
So what does she mean by that?
She emphasizes that English is no longer just the language of native speakers. It's a language that's spoken by people all over the world.
Yeah, it's a global language.
Exactly. And often conversations in English happen between 2 non-native speakers,
Yeah, that's a good point.
which is really
So
interesting.
it's becoming more of a shared language
Yes,
than a language that's owned by any particular country.
exactly.
And that's a really important point.
It is.
It means that there isn't one right way to speak English.
Right.
There's so many different accents
Yeah.
and dialects
Mm-hmm.
and ways of expressing yourself
It's really about being able to understand.
and be understood.
Exactly. Not about some perfect pronunciation
Yeah.
or grammar.
So it's really about embracing like the diversity
Yes.
of English.
And using it as a tool to connect with people from all over the world.
And the third thing you mentioned, Pascal mentioned, was practicing regularly.
Right.
I imagine that's really important for building confidence
That's
and
very good.
fluency.
And that's where the gamer mindset can be helpful again.
Okay. How so?
Well, think about how a gamer approaches a new game.
Yeah.
They don't expect to be an expert right away.
No, you got to learn as you go.
They start by learning the basic controls,
Uh-huh.
experimenting with different strategies,
Right.
and gradually improving their skills through practice.
Yeah. Just like with anything you learn,
Exactly.
it takes time.
So it's about approaching language learning with that same kind of patience
Yeah.
and persistence that you would bring to a video game.
It's about enjoying the process.
Exactly.
This all makes a lot of sense, but I'm wondering
Mhm.
how this applies to those like real life conversations
Right.
where you don't always have time to like plan out
Yeah.
what you're going to say.
Right,
Like
right.
what happens when you just have to like think on your feet?
That's where those communication goals we were talking about earlier become even more important.
Right.
If you have a clear idea of what you want to achieve, even if you don't know the exact words to use,
Okay.
you'll be more likely to find a way to express yourself.
So it's like having a roadmap,
Yeah.
even if you don't know every detail of the route.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to make mistakes.
You're going.
Even native speakers make mistakes all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It happens.
So the important thing is to keep communicating
Yes.
and to learn from your experiences.
Exactly.
To be comfortable with not being perfect.
Yes.
And focus on getting your message across.
And Pascal says that this is especially important in intercultural communication.
Okay.
So when you're talking to someone from a different culture,
Mm-hmm.
there's a higher chance for misunderstanding.
Right, because there might be different cultural norms or ways of expressing things.
So being able to clarify what you mean and
Right.
ask for clarification when you don't understand something is crucial.
That makes sense. This reminds me of that anecdote that Pascal shared
Oh, yeah.
about the barbecue with the engineers
Oh, yeah. I love that story.
from different countries.
Yes. The one with the cheese hot dogs.
Yeah. Could you remind us of that story?
Of course. So there was this French engineer
Okay.
who was trying to offer a cheese hot dog to a Korean engineer,
Yeah.
but he was having so much trouble explaining that the cheese was inside the hot dog.
I can imagine.
It was a funny misunderstanding because they were both using English,
Uh-huh.
but they just weren't quite understanding each other.
Right.
And then a Japanese engineer who was listening to the conversation
Okay.
jumped in and said, cheese integrator.
And they understood.
Yes, everyone understood immediately what he meant.
I love that.
It wasn't grammatically perfect,
But it got the job done.
but it was effective.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how sometimes
Uh-huh.
being creative and using simple language
Yeah.
can be the best way to communicate,
It's about being resourceful.
especially in cross-cultural situations.
I like that a lot.
Mm.
So embracing that gamer mindset
Yeah,
can really help us be more effective communicators in English,
especially when talking to people from other cultures.
especially when talking to people from different cultures.
Yeah, it's about approaching communication as a collaborative effort
Uh-huh.
where everyone's working together to understand each other
Right.
and achieve a shared goal.
Like we're all on the same team,
Exactly.
trying to win the game of communication.
I love that analogy.
It's all about connection.
Yes, communication is about connection.
You know, it's amazing to think about how this gamer mindset can apply to so many things in life,
It's true.
not just speaking English.
Yeah, it's about looking at challenges as opportunities
Yeah.
to learn and grow.
Whether you're learning a new skill or starting a new project
Right.
or just trying something outside your comfort zone,
Exactly.
that gamer attitude can really help you succeed.
It's all about having that growth mindset.
It's not about being a certain type of person.
No.
Anyone can choose to approach challenges in a new way.
I like to think of it as like playing the game of life on a harder difficulty setting.
Oh, I love it.
It's about pushing yourself to see what you're capable of.
And the rewards can be amazing
They can.
when you do that.
When you approach challenges with a gamer mindset, you open yourself up to so many more possibilities.
Totally.
You can learn new things, have new experiences, reach new levels of success.
This has been a really eye-opening conversation, Zoe.
has.
I feel like I have a fresh perspective on how to approach not just speaking English,
I'm so glad.
but challenges in general,
I am too. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
and with our listeners.
Yes.
So to wrap things up,
Okay.
what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing is to remember that speaking English is about connection,
Not perfection.
not perfection.
Yeah.
It's about using this amazing tool to communicate with people, to share your ideas, and to achieve your goals.
And how can our listeners start putting this gamer mindset into practice like today?
That's a great question. I want you to think about one small communication goal that you can set for yourself this week. Maybe it's starting a conversation with a neighbor in English,
Okay.
or ordering your next meal in English,
That's a good one.
or even sending a simple email in English.
Yeah, just something small.
Exactly, just something small but achievable to get the ball rolling.
And approach it with that gamer attitude.
Yes, focus on your goal. Don't worry about being perfect and have fun with it.
Celebrate every win.
Exactly, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you progress.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Zoe, thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure, Liam.
And thank you, dear listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English learning and the power of a gamer mindset.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you learned some valuable tips and are feeling inspired to level up your communication skills.
We hope so.
Until next time, keep playing the game and keep connecting with the world around you.